Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris. I am one of your hosts, and alongside me, I have Alberto Casillas. Say hi.
How's it going, people?
It's going pretty good. Pretty good. I'm excited to have our guest here with us today, all the way from way up north in Canada land. We're going to find out all about Brad. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. You'll notice that Jim is not with us, at least not yet. He had something come up last minute for the day. And so we're going to move on without him because we were looking forward so much to getting to chat with Brad that we did not want to miss up the opportunity for that. With that being said, let's kind of talk about what's going on right now in the Ketoverse. Alberto, you have anything going on?
Oh man, there's a lot going on. Let's just get the call outs and what's going on in the keto world. I mean, what Danny Vega finally released his workout program, which is, to be quite honest, the only and first thing I've ever bought with the name keto on it, a ketogenic muscle intelligence program. I kind of thought about it, talked to you about it. You're very well familiar with Danny Vega, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. So I mean, seemed like a fair deal. It came with a ton of information. I'm still kind of unpacking all the digital downloads and, the workouts and everything. And I'm kind of looking forward to like we go to the gym and we do what we do, but this is like guidance from someone who is certifiable and also keto. So I think that kind of carries a lot of weight. That was a good pun, wasn't it? And then let's not ignore our good friend Gorman, who just launched his podcast. Good old Gormy, Fat Guy Forum, who also the episode that dropped today had fellow member, Keto Man's Club member Miles Russell on it, and I got about halfway through listening to that. Really great story there, and don't want to leave them out. He's our buddy. He's going to do really good. If you haven't listened to the Fat Guy Forum, I think he's on his third or fourth episode. I've already listened to all of them. It'll change the way you look at things, man. He's doing a really good job.
Yeah, he is a really genuine soul. I loved getting to spend the time that we did with him during KetoCon, and it was really great to really dig into to meet him on a personal, real level, even beyond what we did on the podcast before KetoCon. So it was great, and so I'm so excited for him on the podcast being successful. If you haven't gone to subscribe to it, go ahead, take the time, pause ours if you need, as long as you come back, and find Fat Guy Forum, subscribe to it. You won't regret it. It's been a crazy week. Lots of things going on, in general. Let's see. I'm totally just
like
swamped
how much time
with life. Yeah.
Josh, when we interviewed Josh K, a lot of life is happening. A lot of life. He had a great way of putting it. There's a lot of life happening right now.
Yep. That's it exactly. Let's. I did want to very quickly read one of our reviews because we haven't done that in a little while, and we've got several good reviews. In fact, actually, I'm gonna. This one has a tiny bit of criticalness to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and actually give that to Alberto to read.
And this review is from, I'm gonna butcher this name, so I'm gonna apologize right now. Pyron Adius. I'm gonna apologize again for that. But his review was good podcast, good info, good stories, and relevant information about the lifestyle. Some of the guys have poor audio quality, which is my only problem with a podcast that is produced by someone who does it for a living. Alberto asked for the negatives, and he still gave us 5 stars. That is a negative. I did ask for them, and I read it, and I appreciate it. And yeah, we're working on all that. It's kind of a growing thing, and you got to start somewhere. And step one isn't always the greatest step, but much like all the journeys that we go through, it's hopefully by episode 100, we got it all sorted out.
Yeah, there will be some equipment purchases on different ones of us to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to sound the best that we can. I also will make sure that I'm staying on top of it and doing what I can to clean it up when I possibly can. Sometimes it's just not very possible when you're using a phone or, whatever we're using to record for the day. So technology is great, but sometimes it has its limitations. Anyway, yeah, we are thankful for the reviews that we get, whatever those reviews may be, positive or negative. And I want to remind you to go out and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. We really want you to be able to know when we release these. These are coming out weekly on Wednesdays. Sometimes not first thing in the morning like I would like them to, but always on Wednesday. And we will continue with that and get it into your hands as best as we can, because these stories for the people that we're speaking with are important, and I think they matter and actually have some bearing for other folks, and will encourage and inform, which is what we want. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our guest today. Today we have Brad Pond on the phone, on the podcast, and we're going to dig into his story. He's one of the members of the site. Alberto, I think you know a little bit more about him, so why don't you give us some backstory as best as you can, and then we'll ask him to fill in the gaps.
No, I'll just name the two very most important things. One, he's our very first Canadian, and two, he's the very first person to actually reach out to us to request to be on the podcast. And I know we've had a bunch of interactions in the Man's Club, but I'm nothing terribly personal. So this is going to be kind of fun because I really don't know a whole lot about him, but I'm kind of getting excited to talk to the guy who reached out to us and said, "Hey, let me get my story out there. It's going to be good."
Well, now I sound like an
absolutely.
attention getter.
Hey, somebody has to be the first, right? The first podcast wasn't great. We had sound quality issues. Now you're our first person to reach out, so you can only go up from there.
Perfect. Like I said, I just wanted to be the first Canadian. And I'm looking at this list. I've listened to every episode that you guys have done. I was super pumped when I heard you guys were starting a podcast. And then I'm like, oh man, I'd like to be a guest on there. And then I'm listening and I hear Gormy on there, and then David Blackow, and then Aaron today, and the Keto Savage. And I'm like, how do I follow these guys? But I'm just happy to be here. So
absolutely. Well, and the way that you can be here is just be yourself, because that's all we ask of you. That's all any of our listeners should ask of you. We're all just people. We're here to talk about it. So let's go ahead and dig in. So Brad, who are you? You're obviously from, way up north, pretty much opposite us, and all that. But give us some more details about, who you are, where you came from, just the backstory that's necessary to paint the picture of your keto journey.
Sure. So I am 44 years old. I have a 4.5-year-old girl and a 2.5-year-old boy. Congratulations, by the way, Alberto, on your newest edition. I know sleep is a premium at the Pond household. I imagine it is at yours too. So, so I live in Okotoks, Alberta, which is just a suburb of Calgary, and I am a realtor. I just had my 20th year anniversary. And before that, I ran a health club, Pro Bodies Health and Fitness, it was the old Gold's Gym in Calgary, and probably the most hardcore gym back in the day. A lot of the WWF wrestlers, and I guess WWE now, but WWF wrestlers and powerlifters, and a lot of guys that would do guys and girls that would do bodybuilding shows and everything. So I lived that life. I lived that lifestyle. And I guess just to kind of rewind a little bit, I was always a bigger kid. I was 10.5 pounds when I was born, and always the bigger kid, not freakishly overweight or anything. But then high school rolled around, and I got out of shape. And my last year of high school, I decided to hit the weights. And I had worked out kind of off and on even before that. I was always kind of obsessed with lifting and things. And then when I moved to Calgary from a smaller town, I got a job at Pro Bodies, and I kind of worked my way up from cleaning equipment to management. And I really, really enjoyed that lifestyle. Obviously, I mean, you're basically getting paid to visit and work out and eat 6-7 times a day and just basically be a meathead. But that wasn't paying the bills, and I decided to take the jump when I was almost 24 and jump into real estate. And that first year in real estate, I kind of went from eating every 2 and 3 hours, boiling chicken breast because fat was the devil and everything, and it was like I went from that to burgers at the drive-thru, eating on the go, and I gained a pile of weight back, and I just kind of went from there. Cheeseburgers and beers and pizza, and I've lost the weight, and it's found me over the years a couple times, and nothing's really worked until I found keto. I even did Atkins back in, I guess that would have been about 2006. And, not counting macros or anything like that, living off ground beef and mayonnaise. But, I was also single. So, you go out and you howl at the moon and have a couple beers. So you're eating high fat, low carb for 4 days a week. And then you're out tomcatting at night. And it just doesn't work. Right. So fast forward a little bit. I was up to about, I think I got as high, I stopped weighing myself to be honest. But I got up as high as around, I'd say about 320. And I would work out. I'd go on a good run for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And, you kind of rev your metabolism, you get hungry, and you kind of eat like you used to when you were 23 and lifting big, big, big weights. And, then you'd kind of maybe stop going to the gym for a week here and there, or you'd have an ache and pain and stop, or you'd get busy with work and you'd still keep eating those calories. So I got bigger, stronger. I carry a lot of muscle on me naturally. And, I would gain the weight, and I didn't gain weight like a lot of guys do, where you just gain it on your belly. I kind of gained it everywhere. You kind of blow up like a tick. And, yeah, it was funny January 24th, 2017, my son was born. February 9th, 2017, was the day that kind of changed my life. Not 2 weeks before, we were talking about the Atkins diet and how bad it was, my wife and I, and she said, "Can you imagine just eating fat and no carbs?" I said, "Oh, I know, it's crazy that people would do that." And then fast forward about 2-3 weeks later, I was up walking the floor with my son while my wife slept, and I was reading Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans. And I mentioned it on the Facebook group the other day. He introduced Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, and his claim to fame is, or one of them, I mean, among other things, but he did a 5-day fast, and then it ended up pulling something like 600 pounds off the ground, and then he did 500 for 10 or something. I thought, okay, well, this guy's clearly on cocaine and Anadrol, because that's, you can't do that. It's impossible. And, and then I kind of read more and listened more. And I really kind of dove deep into reading up on this ketogenic lifestyle. And, everybody from the Two Keto Dudes, which are another podcast, and, Danny Vega and even Mark Sisson and all those guys. I drive around a lot. I'm a realtor, and I'm always listening to podcasts, and I did a ton of research on it. And like I said, with the conversation I had with my wife, I said I didn't want to tell her. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of an experiment by myself, and during our sleep deprivation with our newborn son and a toddler, I just was saying, you know what, I'm not really that hungry today. So we would have your healthy North American meal of, say a chicken breast, rice, and broccoli. And I would just say, don't worry, I'm not going to eat the rice today. And then when she wasn't looking, I put a little bit of butter or olive oil on my vegetables. And it just, man, it clicked right from day one. I don't think I experienced any keto flu because I was so sleep deprived at the time anyways. I didn't really notice it. And I was busy with real estate, and I just kind of powered through it. And I dropped, I think it was 14 pounds in the first 6 days. Now, I'm not
Oh, wow.
naive enough to know that that's all fat. I mean, I know that was water and a lot of inflammation and everything in my body, but it just worked. And even my wife looked at me, and she's a bit of a chubby chaser, to be honest. And she kind of looked at me and was like, what is up with you? And so I had to break down and tell her. And she said, well, you know, is it healthy? And I said, yes, it is. And yeah, so fast forward, she got behind it, and she noticed my energy levels. I have an autoimmune disorder, which is, it's pretty low on the autoimmune spectrum, but it's my thyroid. It's just a thyroid issue. And yeah, so I can kind of bonk pretty easy with my energy. And keto is just really just kind of taking care of a lot of that stuff. So the rest is history, really. You know, I kind of went full bore with it. And it was funny because I can't really remember the timeline right now, but I was down about 30 pounds and I was really happy. And I had an appointment to see my doctor, and Amber, that's my wife. She said, well, what's going to happen if the doctor says that your blood is bad and your cholesterols are up and, you know, all your vitals are kind of going to hell? And I said, I don't care. I'm going to keep with this. And she got very upset with me, you know, being a newer dad and everything. But I said, you know, I don't care. I feel great. I feel healthy. And frankly, I don't care what my cholesterol say or my blood sugars say or anything like that, because, you know, I'd rather die with energy and you know, 30 pounds lighter. Fast forward now, I'm 70 pounds lighter, and my doctor was blown away at that checkup. She said, you know, how are you, Brad? And she's this little Indian lady that I think she studied over in London. So she kind of looks down her glasses at me sometimes. And she said, you know, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm good. I'm down 30 pounds and I've started doing a ketogenic diet. And she rolled her eyes at me. And I said, what? She said, that's hard on your kidneys. It's high protein. I said, it's actually not high protein. It's moderate protein and high fat. And her eyes got bigger and she said, high fat? I said, yeah, you show me anywhere in the world that says that high fat is bad for you. Any true pure science that says that. And she kind of changed the subject. And she said, well, your cholesterols have all improved. Your good cholesterol's gone up and your bad cholesterol's gone down and your sugars are amazing. And I said, well, you know, the proof is in the pudding. And she said, well, and your trans fats they're almost zero. And well, maybe not almost zero, but they were quite low. And I said, see? And she goes, yeah, but you don't eat a lot of fast food and saturated fats. And I said, well,
it's
and
always
I don't,
something.
but I wanted to bug her. And I said, well, I eat about 6 pounds of bacon a week, which I don't, but I wanted to kind of drive that point home. And, yeah, she hasn't argued, since. Every time she sees me, it's just, you know, how's everything? But, you know, my dad has 7 brothers and sisters and they're all diabetic. It doesn't run in my family at Gallups. So that's something that's always been a really big concern of mine. And, yeah, I really feel it's given me a real new hope. Right. And I love keto because it's just so easy, you know, and I'm all about the path of least resistance. I love what you said before the podcast, of your friend. What did he say? Instead of busy, life is full. Is that what you said?
There's a lot of life happening.
A lot of life
Yes,
happening.
yes.
I love that. I'm big into buzzwords and ways of saying things better. I don't like the word busy. I think we glorify busy, but at the same time, there's a lot of life happening. And you know, when you're a dad and you're running a business and you know, you're trying to be a good husband and everything, I don't have time to spend you know, 3 hours a day in the gym, and I don't even meal prep. Like I eat. My lunch is leftover dinner from the night before, or I go out to eat, and it's easy. If I'm busy, I don't eat. If I'm, you know, there's none of this foolishness of I haven't eaten in 3 hours. I'm starting to get shaky now, and I'm starting to get hangry, and you know,
Isn't that fascinating?
Oh my God. I used to carry granola bars in my pockets in my suits when I was showing houses because I didn't want to get hangry and grumpy in front of my clients. And now it's like, for me, the easiest way to fast is just get really, really busy with work.
I agree with that 100%. We actually just had a visitor over for the weekend, and she was like, kind of poking and prodding. She was curious, and she's like, "Well, isn't all that fat bad for you?" I'm like, "Could be. I go, you're going to still eat sugar." I was like, "Well, if you eliminate all sugar," I'm like, "You're all good." And it kind
Yeah.
of went back to that too. It's just it's always something. And, I could tell she was curious, and she was kind of poking and prodding, but the conversation it didn't really get too far. Like she kind of was just waiting for the negative to come out, and there was really no negative in the conversation. So she's like, "Okay, well, yeah, that sounds cool, I guess."
No. It's like a secret weapon, and I'm not secretive of it. I don't try to preach it too much just because, frankly, I'm tired of arguing with people. But, it's that secret weapon of I don't need to eat every 3 hours. I'm not going to shrink. I do have that 90s big mentality where, it's almost like a bigorexia. But, you don't have to eat 600 grams of protein and 8,000 calories and it's just easy, and fat and salt are not the enemy. And I'm not a big faster, but I've mentioned this again on the Facebook group. I'll never forget it. I remember sitting, I enjoy, and you guys can bust my chops. I enjoy a spin class every now and then, once a week just to kind of really kind of rev the cardio. And I remember I did a 40-hour fast and I followed it up Sunday morning with a spin class. So I hadn't eaten in 40 hours. I had salt and coffee, and I'm sitting there on before class, and there's a lady there. She was a little overweight, and she was eating granola and yogurt before her spin class. And I could read her mind. She was going, I need to get my energy up before I do this and burn energy. So I'm taking in a bunch of calories. I'm raising my insulin levels before I try to burn some calories and, burn some body fat. And I'm sitting there spinning away with this big, poop eating grin. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it clean. And I'm sitting there and I'm just going, man, oh man. And I kind of pinched my little, well, not my little, it's still pretty big, but I pinched my love handle and I was like, this is what I'm burning off today. I'm going to take this out today. And it's just so cool, so yeah. Sorry, I kind of rambled on a little bit there, but
no worries. Taking a step back, and this is something like one of my big takeaways, and I talked about it during my interview. Was Dr. Sean Baker said it. He was saying, and going back to what you were saying about your doctor and how we were talking about a minute ago, saying like your daily human performance is a far better indicator of health than the 5-10 minutes you could have spent with any doctor. And probably not word for word what he said, but it's kind of the point he was getting at. And and I also had, quote unquote, had an autoimmune disease that keto completely took care of. So I know that feeling of like complete elation, like wow, like it was this simple the whole time, and I never knew. No one ever told me. And so then I get that, and probably and just like you were saying, the only time my doctor ever stopped typing to look me in the eyes was the day I told him I stopped taking my medication, and he was not happy either.
No.
He wasn't happy, but he couldn't refute the fact that you are healthier than you ever have been, and your ulcerative colitis is completely in check right now, where you've gotten 0 symptoms, and it's been over a year, and he doesn't know why, because he hasn't tried to accept and understand that food is medicine, and that's crazy to me.
It's
I mean, your story can be
absolutely incredible.
And like with any autoimmune disease, like there's levels, right? So I may have gotten lucky, and mine may have never gotten that bad. And there are other people who it's terrible, and they suffer, and there's nothing they're going to be able to do to fix it. But the answer could be as simple as staying very strict to one specific way of eating. And you know what? It may not cure, quote unquote, cure. Don't say cure in the ulcerative colitis crowd, because you'll get bashed.
No.
It might not, quote unquote, cure your issues, but I promise you it's going to make them like 10 times better. It will. That I can almost guarantee. I'd be willing to bet a paycheck on it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about my experience, which I don't think I really talked about that much, was because I hadn't been to the doctor in a while. So I actually had a colonoscopy scheduled and lab scheduled. So and this was like sometime around July. This is when I went to see him, when he was typing and decided to stop typing and actually look me in the eyes. So 6 months prior to that, I ate nothing but red meat and water. because I was like trying
I
my
remember
hardest
that.
to stack the decks against myself. You know, I was like, look, I go,
Yeah.
this is going to kill me. It's going to kill me. Like, I know what terrible feels like. So I went on my hardcore carnivore stint, 95% beef, 5% bacon and chicken wings, everything else. Only drank water and unsweet tea and coffee. And I figured, okay, like if this is going to be bad for me, you know, they're sticking the camera up there. If it's going to be bad, we're going to find out real quick. Cleanest results I've ever had, cleanest blood work I've ever had, and even my wife, you know, we got done. You know, you have your kind of you get past the thing, you actually eat again. And she was like, "Where we going?" I'm like, "Brotherton's barbecue." I'm like, "It got me here. I'm
Yeah.
sticking with it."
Yeah.
Yep.
No, your story is absolutely incredible. And my hat's off to you, my friend, because that's
Thank you.
substantial. But, you know, I know two people now, yourself and my old training partner that had that. And both times it's been cured by diet. Now, he went the juicing route. And I'm not saying but both times it's been diet, and, you know, these complex carbs and everything. I always knew it too, you know, like my guts, they kind of feel a little destroyed when I, you know, used to eat carbs. And I'd be a bold-faced liar if I sat here right now and told you guys that I haven't raided, you know, the kids' pantry and, you know, had their Rice Krispie treats or whatever, you know, late at night. But I do keep it to a dull roar. But, yeah, next day, man, I pay for it. So, it's just, you know, those carbs can really wreak havoc on you. So,
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure
yeah.
you can agree too. Like in certain times when people are just like, "Oh, I went on vacation and I'm going to have all this," all I can think of in my head is like, "Well, that'd be a good way for me to ruin 3 days of vacation if I were to try to
Well,
slip up and enjoy the moment. There'd be no enjoyment at all."
no, the stakes are much, much higher for you. No pun intended. Hey, because, you know, for you, it's the ultimate pain, right? I mean, you're crippled over in pain for 3 days after a carb cheat. For me, it's just shame and guilt and, you know, and, you know, maybe a couple extra trips to the bathroom or whatever that day. But man, you know, you talk about just an efficient system with keto. It's just so efficient. And it kind of bugs me because I've had a lot of my friends reach out to me over the last 2 years going, you know, what are you doing? What do you do? And, you know, what about these keto shakes and this and that? And what do you do for desserts? And just keep it simple, man. Just, you know, meats. Don't shy away from the fats. Don't shy away from the skin. Eat your veggies if you want, and drink your water, and don't be afraid of salt. Eat when you're hungry, and don't worry about intermittent fasting until you get fully fat adapted. You know, why suffer, right? It's not a diet. It's a way of life, and it's a way of eating. And, it's just so simple. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of talk specifics here. We've gotten a lot of your story out, and I'm loving it. I don't mind that one bit. You've made it really easy for us to hear who Brad is, and that's really cool. So you've with autoimmune diseases, you tend to get more blood work, more tests, and things like that. What have your biomarkers done? What has your thyroid things that you have to monitor? What are those results showing? What are the felt benefits? What are you seeing both on paper and off in terms of your physical health?
So all cholesterols have improved. So the good cholesterols are up. The bads are down. Triglycerides they hit the floor, and blood sugar levels are below normal. Blood pressure is awesome. You know what's cool is I donated blood. I try to donate blood as often as I can. I donated blood on Monday. I went. I had a fasted workout. Had some salt and some branched chain amino acids, which you guys might roll your eyes at, but I was just like, you know what? They're in the cupboard. They've been there forever, and I kind of need to hydrate a little bit more today. So I just threw that in with some pink salt, kind of as a treat. Then for lunch, I had a steak. I donated blood, and they check your hemoglobin and iron levels. And she's like, oh yeah, you're good. Like, she kind of gave me a wink and was like, you know, they're through the roof kind of thing. And then afterwards, you know, I used to have the guilt-free cookies, afterwards, right? Because you donated blood and you needed to get your blood sugar levels up. And that's another thing too. It was cool, right? Because everyone's like, you're not going to have cookie or juice or a Coke or anything like that. But yeah, so sorry, a bit of a sidetrack there, but no, they've all improved. Unfortunately, my thyroid is the only thing that really hasn't. I was really hoping that with this in the weight loss that it would kind of correct itself, but I'm still on meds for that. We aren't all superhuman like Alberto. Guy's tougher than boiled owl. I mean, who decides he's going to go for a 5K run? Just no warm up. Just going to go for a run, and then tomorrow I'm going to deadlift a truck for 100 reps.
I guess it's me.
Yeah.
Working out next to Alberto has been eye-opening, to say the very, very least. And now on the note of the donating blood, I do it regularly because I'm on testosterone replacement. And so one of the ways that I keep my hematocrit in check is just naturally helping people out by donating blood. And, I'm O negative, so they really need my blood because
good for you.
Unique. So it's one of those things. I'll be doing that tomorrow, but they always I always feel like they're giving me a little bit of side eye whenever all I do is get some water and sit in the waiting area for that 5 minutes that they want to make sure that you're not going to like pass out on them. And I'm like, I have not eaten in 16 hours. And at this point in time, I'm totally fine without your sugar laden, whatever.
Yeah.
And, I try not to make a big deal out of it, but they expect that you're going to carb out, and like, there are zero non-carby, snack items that are there. And I always want to talk to them about it because it's kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, but then I'm like, I'll just take the movie ticket and I'll be good.
You guys get movie tickets? We don't get movie tickets.
Our local place, they do a pretty good job of trying to give added incentives now, because I'm like, tomorrow I will be going. I've got to block out the time. I was scheduled actually to do it today and just couldn't make it out. But they're needing O negative blood, and so like, if you're O negative and you come out, you'll get you'll get a movie ticket to Alamo Draft House, which is one of our locals. And
nice.
They've got a lot
Alamo
of
Draft House. The irony there.
Hey, again, another, it's always like popcorn or a movie ticket where you're going to have carby, foods, and, those types of things. So
it's all around you. It's funny because the first time I had given blood as a ketonian, I was really scared, because the first time I ever gave blood, I was young. I was a dumb meathead, and I went with my sister, who's a few years older than me and much, much more mature. And I went in after a leg workout, hockey is all get up. I had my post-workout shake, and I gave blood. And I remember I almost hit the bricks just because I kind of got up too fast or whatever. So that's always been in the back of my mind, even though I've just given my 25th donation. So the first time I gave blood as a ketogenic person, I was terrified. Like, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. You don't eat carbs. This is just, and, can I get you a soda? Well, I'm from Canada, so they say pop, but, can I get you a pop? And I'm like, no, I think I'm good. It was almost like a question, right? And, well, can I get you cookies? No, I'm good. Well, can I get you chips? No, I'm good. And they almost, like I said, they almost kind of get offended. And, when you sit there in your little 5-minute purgatory, and you're just like, oh, can I go? I got stuff to do. Like, wrap me up and get me out of here.
That's it. Exactly. I always just want to jump out of the chair and like, okay, I'm good. Like, I totally know I'm good. And I go ahead and I at least wait a couple minutes. Like, I get a little cup of water and sip on it and, take my time. But make them happy. I don't mind.
But if I don't skip down the hall, exactly. But if I can walk from the chair to the lounge and I don't skip down the hallway on my lips, I'm good.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You talk about carbs being all around you and stuff. And Alberto, I know your wife's vegetarian, right? Or vegan?
Vegetarian. She's not that crazy.
Yeah. No. So, and I don't know about you, Chris, but we have young kids, and we keep them on a pretty low sugar diet. But as you guys know, it's all around, and I certainly don't want my kids to be that weird kid that can eat nothing but avocados as a treat. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy, but yeah, it's tough kind of being, I'm really the only ketogenic person in the family. So that's sometimes a challenge. And I've made mention it on the group before. I'm one of the only people in the world that can joke about his wife's weight. My wife is 5'7". She fights to be 120 pounds, and she eats like a 300-pound linebacker. Like, it's unbelievable. Last night she went for a McDonald's run at 9:30 at night. So that's, that's a challenge, right? But she's super supportive too, right? And she's, she does, I'd say, well, I mean, she does the majority of the cooking. I cook, 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes depending on the week. Certainly not afraid of being in the kitchen, but, yeah, she just knows, don't put rice or potatoes or pasta on my plate, and give daddy the big piece of chicken or the big piece of steak. So it's pretty easy in that regard. So
yeah, we don't have too many issues or problems with that here, and I'm sure you can attest to the fact that like just you eating the way you eat has a big effect on what your wife and kids eat. Maybe not so much your wife because she's a metabolic freak, but
she is.
But like the kids, like like my kids, for example, like every time they eat something, they'll look at me like, "Dad, like, does this have sugar in it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it has sugar in it." Like, is it bad for me? I'm like,
yeah.
Bad for me. It's not necessarily bad for you. And if you were to look in our pantry and look at there's snacks in there. Dude, we still have candy from Halloween from last year. We're in July. Like they just, it's just not the way we eat as a family. So it just kind of like cascades its way down.
Yeah. I also don't want to make food any sort of taboo or forbidden fruit. I like my 4.5-year-old, she's 4.5 going on 30. And, she, yeah. And, ever since she's been about 2.5, 3 years old, she knows that daddy's keto. And, I don't tell her, daddy eats keto because he's a fat bastard. Daddy eats keto because sugars don't make me feel healthy is what I tell her. Right. So, she wants to eat that. That's fine. Everything in moderation. And, like I said, I don't want my kids to have some weird relationship with food.
Yeah. And I've talked about it in the past before too, where it's like, and the way I always look at it too is like, okay, like, it's my choice. I'm a grown man. Like, They still got to go to school. There's going to be cupcakes and birthday parties. So like, if I were to force that, like, I know what a cupcake would do to me. And so if I were to force my kids to be keto, like, you can't send them to school and not expect them to have a cupcake on some kid's birthday party. Like if it ever becomes a detriment to their health, 100%, I'm all down for fixing it the way I know how, and, with the doctor's recommendation, but as long as they're healthy, that they're free to rock on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I wanted to kind of share that part with you there a little bit with.
So I'm over here scrolling through some of your pictures in the Man's Club here, and tell me the meaning. And I'm going to butcher this. Gradatim ferociter.
So I actually got that from So I had to get a couple suits made, and they said, "Well, what do you want engraved on the inside?" And I said, "Gradatim ferociter," and I had just heard it. From Mark Bell. Do you guys know who that is? Powerlifter.
Yes.
He's toyed with the ketogenic diet. He kind of goes back and forth, but, man, you talk about a transformation. And, he talked about it one day, gradatim ferociter, and it's Latin for step by step ferociously. And, it's kind of how I try to live my life. You don't have to go in and run 5K one day and then deadlift the next. No, you don't have to be an absolute, you don't have to be, a psycho and kill yourself in the gym or in business or whatever. To me, it's all about balance, and it's just little small incremental changes and steps that lead up to amazing and positive changes and results. And, that's anything in business, from making that extra phone call a day, or going to the gym and when you don't want to. And even if it's just a 20-minute, like I work out 90% at home. I've got a pretty nice little setup. I do have a gym membership. Sometimes I kind of want to, brush my teeth and go to the gym. But, just a 20-minute workout is way better than nothing, and
Oh, absolutely.
just, making small little incremental changes. And I'm a bit of a junkie for, positive self-talk and all those stuff, or all those things. So,
Yeah, I saw you're
So
also a
what?
fan of David Goggins.
yeah. Yeah. Have you read his book? You should read his book. Actually, you should hear his book, because it's kind of podcasty, and kind of, because he'll read the book, and then he'll talk with his ghostwriter. Like they'll read it. He'll say a chapter or two, and then his ghostwriter will go, "Okay, I'm just going to stop you right there. What were you thinking with it?" And it's super cool. But the guy's a
That's
psycho.
really
Yeah, I
cool.
heard the audiobook was well worth the
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah. But the guy's a psycho. And like my business partner and I were talking about it the other day, and like, that's a great book. And I love David Goggins. Like, it's a great book for if you want to motivate yourself and, kind of really go savage like that. But, I'm interested in people that kind of have the whole well-rounded package. There's no point in having $1 million in the bank account if you can't walk a flight of stairs. And there's no point in being in the best shape of your life if you're, a piece of junk human being. So, I don't think the guy's got much balance in his life, but that's just me,
But yeah,
so
yeah, and the book is It Can't Hurt Me. Is that right?
can't hurt me. Yeah. And what's
Yeah,
funny
and
is, do you guys know who Jesse Itzler is?
the name's
Jesse
ringing a bell. I
Itzler.
just can't think of it right
Okay.
now.
So he's a billionaire, and he's married to Sarah Blakely, who's a billionaire. So they live that lifestyle, but he owns a coconut water company. He was a one-hit wonder on MTV, really unique individual. But he has a book, and the audio version is really funny. It's called 30 Days Living with a Seal. And this guy, who's in pretty good shape,
Right.
he's done, marathon runs and stuff. He hires David Goggins to live with him for 30 days and beat the absolute hell out of him. And it's really funny, but it's pretty inspiring too. And, they only refer to David because I think he was under contract still with the Seals. They only refer to him in the book as Seal, but, it's pretty funny. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So you mentioned that your wife is kind of a metabolic machine and doesn't have to do keto and does McDonald's runs late at night and still, skinny as a rail. What is the other family members, outside of your family, parents, brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles, or even just your close friends? What have they done reactively to you adopting this lifestyle?
Everyone's pretty supportive. I mean, the results speak for themselves, and it's kind of hard to argue with me. Again, I've done a lot of research on the topic, so I'm not one of those bacon worship keto. I brush my teeth with bacon grease, and because I'm a man, blah blah blah. But if you can really educate people, they're pretty supportive. As we were dealing with our technical glitch there, I got a text from my mother to my wife and I, because we're going over there for dinner, and she's made a dish. I kind of really only read the text kind of with one eye, but said something about keto cauliflower rice or whatever. So everyone's pretty supportive. And,
Okay.
like I said, I thought my wife was going to kill me, when she found out I was doing it. And then when I told you that I had lost some weight and I was going to go to the doctor, and she said, well, what happens if things aren't good? What are you going to do? But, she's super supportive with it. So
yeah. Good. So one other question that I had, and this kind of, obviously your health was a factor that you just health alone, seeking health is motivation enough. But I give myself as an example, like I talked during my episode. For me, I hit 35 and I'm like, or was about to hit 35. And I'm like, okay, I want to live to 70. How do I do that? I need to get healthy. I need to get my act together, and started my search towards health that way. And that was my motivation of, okay, I want to live my best life. What is yours? What's kind of been your anchor for that? What kind of, other than just the search for health, sparked that in you?
Well, I've always been, I never had one of those Oprah aha moments where, hey, I should get in shape. Oh, really? Like I tried over the years, and I tried to be healthy, and I'd like to say it was for health, but truth is, I did it for a major portion of it was for narcissistic reasons. I wanted to
We are
look
men
good,
after all.
and yeah, right. And I wanted to look good, and just that overall. So it's not that I wasn't trying to get healthy or whatever. I just felt like, I was living that kind of that bodybuilding diet. Like that was the only thing I knew, right? So okay, I got to get back into shape. This is BS. I'm going to get back on the wagon. And well, what do I turn to? Chicken and rice or chicken and broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff just makes me hungrier, and it doesn't satisfy me. It doesn't fulfill me. And and then I would just kind of blow it out or whatever on a cheat day. And even though I didn't really earn that cheat day, and I heard a great way of describing it: deranged metabolism. Everyone goes like, I just want to poke people in the eye when they say, "Well, just move more and eat less." I was, I was always kind of, I mean, I wasn't super consistent, but at 310 pounds, I did a 50K bike ride for MS. And, I was doing all that stuff, and, I would go into the gym. I actually turned into a bit of a cardio queen, because every time I hit the weights, my dress shirts would get tighter, and then I would get hungrier. And I was just sort of this, big old savage. So I really kind of got into bike riding and spin class and things like that, just because I thought, that's the only thing that's going to work for me. So I love being back in the gym now. It's great. I'm not pulling big weights or anything, but I sure miss that pump. And just a sidetrack, I don't know if I answered your question, Chris, or not, but just a sidetrack. So two things when I started keto, when I read about Dominic D'Agostino, Tim Ferriss said the first time he was on their podcast, they sold out of this certain, I forget the name brand of it, but it was an organic sardine company or something. And
Okay.
I was like, oh God, am I going to have to eat sardines? Like just to lose weight? And I bought about 6 cans of them, not the organic kind, but just, whatever, because I wanted to try different kinds. And I'm proud to say that they're still in my pantry 2.5 years later, and I've never eaten them. I don't think I ever will. But I was that desperate that I was just like, you know what, whatever, I'll eat wood chips if that's what it takes. If I need to go on a diet of straight wood chips, that's what I'm going to eat. Like I was so fed up with that. Right. And then, I had this new son and everything. And, another thing too that I love with keto and the non-scale victories is like, I had gone from 300 pounds to 250 before. And, I kind of got skinny fat. And I felt like I lost some muscle, but oh well, you're getting older, and as long as you look good in clothes, that's okay. But with keto, like I've got veins in my forearms that I never had, even when I was like quote unquote in shape. Like I really thought I was just going to deflate, but at least I'd look good in a suit. And maybe I'll drop some weight, but I'll feel better maybe, or I'll feel lighter, and it's almost superhuman,
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so cool. Like you were showing off your veins there the other day, Alberto, and it's just, I'm like, I get it. I drove my wife nuts the first 6 months I was on. I'm like, check this out, I got a new vein, and she's like, I get it, you've got a vein. So
You don't understand vascularity,
no,
bro.
yeah, exactly, gains, bro. Yeah, so it's really cool that way, right? And just different non-scale victories. I have an old classic car that's 19 feet long, but the cockpit it doesn't really, it's not really conducive to being for a big man. And I fit in that better. I mentioned it on the group one time. I went to go read my kids a story. My wife we were out at our trailer. We've got an RV lot, just in the next province over. And, those RV beds aren't really sturdy. And, my wife was laying there with her 2 kids, and she said, come on, Daddy, like, let's read us a story. And I put one knee on the bed, and I kind of had one of those, oh crap moments. I hope I don't break this bed if I get on it. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I lost more weight than my 2 kids weigh right now. So, that was just stuff like that, man. It's
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's just it's so amazing. And sometimes, you kind of go, well, the scale hasn't moved for a while or whatever, but you kind of look back at where you were, and it's pretty cool. So at 44, I feel like I'm in better shape than I was when I was 21, 22 years old, and deadlifting 500 pounds. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, those types of experiences that you have, like you did with the bed, where you realize, oh wait, I don't have to worry about this so much because there's no reason that this shouldn't work right.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to support me. That's huge. That's just so huge. You mentioned previously, doing working out fasting and giving blood fasted. Is that just intermittent fasting, or do you have a specific regimen, extended fasting? What's your take on all of that and experience?
I've kind of toyed with it all over the years. And what I found with keto is I try to switch it up a little bit. So typically I usually go to bed around 10:30. And then I stop eating at 6:37. And then I typically won't eat until noon or 1. Sometimes I push it if I'm busy, but you know what? Sometimes I'll want a big old fat breakfast of bacon and eggs, or sometimes I'll want heavy cream in my coffee. But I even kind of cycle that, right? Just kind of catching your body off guard. Like somebody was talking about it, and I don't want to sound like a paleo freak or anything like that, but how would our ancestors have eaten, right? We wouldn't have gotten up and, gotten that kill first thing in the morning unless we were having a really, really lucky day. We had to go up and get up and hunt hungry. And, so that's kind of how I treat that. I try not to eat. I try to only eat between noon and 8, but again, I switch it up. And sometimes I'll do really low calorie days, and then sometimes I'll feast. Always keto, but yeah. And I try not to get caught up with Alberto's Facebook posts with his, eating 6 pounds of ribeye or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And then you got to remember that, he's kind of a metabolic freak too. So
I am now. It wasn't always this way. Like, I'm making up for lost time. There was 18 years of lost time.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel like that sometimes? Like, man, I wish I would have known insane. Now with all this, everything is so, the fitness industry and nutrition and everything is so, I mean, I used to, when I was poor and a gym rat, I used to meal prep. And I remember there a couple months I was going to school and taking some upgrading classes. And, I didn't have a ton of money. I used to boil ground beef because the fat, like it was cheap protein, but it was too fatty.
Oh, Lord.
You boil the fat off of it.
This just ruins good meat.
Oh, I know. It's just, I want a time machine so I can go back and punch myself in the face. But
oh, Lord. Yeah. Great source of protein or great source of fat is my answer to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have taken a lot of your time tonight between the little technical glitch that hopefully our listeners have very little realization that it actually happened. And just you've been a great storyteller. Alberto, you don't have anything else to ask, I'm guessing, at this point, unless he sparked something else.
No, we covered it all. I had my usual typical list of questions and points I wanted to hit, and we blew those out of the water. And I actually added to that list, and then we blew those out of the water. So we're good, man.
Oh, good. Sorry, I hope I didn't kind of ramble on too much or anything.
Oh, no, not at all.
No, man. Not
There's
at all.
my obligatory Canadian apology. Sorry.
So do you eat dinner or do you eat supper?
I'm a dinner person, but we do have friends that are supper people, and I kind of judge them.
As you should.
Being from Kansas City, I have adopted, let's see, what do I say now? I don't say pop. I definitely don't say Coke. I usually normally say soda, I think, when I'm referring to carbonated beverages. But it is one of those things that growing up, it was always a little bit of something, because growing up in the Midwest, we're a mix of so much. But down here in Texas, everything's Coke. What type of Coke would you like? Type thing. And so it's something to adjust for always. Okay, well, let's see. What other business do we have before we sign off for the day? We missed having Jim with us. I know he probably would have had another question or two, but
Yeah, that's too bad.
yeah, he was busy, and that happens.
Mhm.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna call out Mike Gorman and on Instagram Gormy_goes_keto and his Fat Guy Forum. Said it in the beginning of the podcast. I'm gonna say it again. Check it out, listen to it. Me being I've never been that big of a guy. I was fat for myself, but I wasn't that big of a guy. And I use the word fat because he uses the word fat in the podcast. He says it like a million times. He's not ashamed of it. If you go on his Instagram page, he is brutally, ruthlessly honest, and he almost shameless, but if you can say shameless in a positive way. So I mean, I could give this guy I could talk about him all night. We could just keep this going for another hour, just me talking about Mike Gorman. But go check out his podcast. Miles Russell was the interview this week. He's also a member. We met him at KetoCon. Hell of a guy. I just want to leave it at that as far as call outs go.
Absolutely. And that's mine as well, because that's something I'm really excited for Gormy and for his journey. And he, his podcast is not exactly specifically focused at keto. It's focused on something a little deeper into the world of what it's like to be a super heavyweight guy and trying to reclaim some of your identity and health and what that implication is, and kind of the psychological as well as the physical effects of that. So I think that's important. That's a different conversation than we get to have on a daily basis. And I think that's good. Okay, well, that's pretty much all we've got for this week. I do want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcast platform you prefer to listen to. You can easily do that through our web player on on the links that we send out via our website. So you can definitely schedule, or you can definitely subscribe fairly easily right there. And then you don't miss an episode, which that's a great thing. And then do us a favor whenever you get the chance, like what we mentioned earlier, get on the Apple Podcast and leave a comment or give us a 5-star or a 1-star, because we'll take negative feedback just as much as we will positive feedback. It's all feedback, and that's a good thing. But Alberto likes to read the negative stuff, and we would crave you going ahead and helping us spread the word about us, because we do have a message that I believe is important for men to hear. And I don't even care if they're ketogenic or not. I believe that we are talking about things that are impactful for men in general. And so that's been great. So let's go through real quickly. Now, you can reach all three of us on the Keto Man's Club Facebook group. So if you are not a member and want to join, please go to theketomansclub.com, and that will get you to our Facebook group. You can fill out a couple questions. Please answer all three questions, and you'll be able to get accepted within a day or so. And we'll go from there. You can reach us pretty much anytime. Alberto and myself are admins, so we're seeing everything pretty regularly. So just reach out to us there. That's one way. You can also reach out to myself via Instagram. And I am at Duckman Keto on Instagram for my keto related stuff. I've been a little bit more active there since KetoCon than I had been in the past. My personal is Duckman1221. You'll see more of my animals and things like that in that Instagram feed. And so that's it for me personally. Jim is at Jim Inman Jr. on Instagram. So you can see his dogs and his food and whatever else he posts, which is somewhat infrequently. And then Alberto, where can people find you? You have a new one that people can find.
I do. It quick little backstory, because it all kind of started as a joke. Speaking of KetoCon, which KetoCon in itself itself was a lesson in Instagram. I learned a lot that weekend as far as Instagram. But yeah, and you guys probably, we're all familiar with the stories. We talked about it, but we left KetoCon and we were going to meet up with everyone at barbecue. And Chris decided they wanted to take who else went with us? I forget his name. I forget his name right now. We went to go get barbecue. Zenwheel. That guy.
Yeah.
I only remember him as Zenwheel. They decided they want to hop on these little scooters, and they want to, and it's only a mile and a half away. And me being a caveman that I am, I couldn't even figure out how to get the app to work with my credit card to get onto this scooter. And KetoCon was over. I had ran to my truck. I came back. I was wearing nothing but a wife beater. How come there's no better word for wife beater? Anyways, we all know what we're talking about.
The politically correct name for them, I believe, is a shirt, which makes no sense.
I was wearing a shirt. Anyways,
an A shirt.
Back to the story. Yeah. This is going to go on for too long. So here I'm wearing my sunglasses, wearing my Dickie shorts, as I usually do, wearing my AA shirt. And I'm ripping down the street once I got the hang of the scooter. And these things had the cutest little bells on them that you could possibly imagine. And Chris had made the comment that the look on people's faces as they've seen their first cholo on a scooter ripping through downtown Austin was hilarious. It was a partial frightening, partial hilarious. And so that joke kind of went on for a while. And then Mike Gorman had made a comment. So anyways, to wrap this all around in one big circle, my new Instagram is the Keto Cholo.
I love it. Yeah, you should have a 61 Impala there somewhere in your thing. But
I need to. And now I'm just deciding, do I throw in like Carnal and Essay and Holmes in every one of my Instagram posts just to further push the stereotype?
Nope. It's funny though. Hey, the first time I heard, I just said the first time I heard the term wife beater, I was like, oh my God, that is the worst. But like 20 years later now, it's mainstream. Like my mother would say, yeah, he was wearing a wife beater. It's so bad. But we've accepted
it. Now you call it an A shirt from now on. But I'm going to say it just like that. In a shirt.
Yeah.
It's Albert. Chris, it's Alberto. You're lucky he was wearing a shirt at all. So,
well, yeah. In public, he tries, especially whenever they have a no shirts, no shoes, no service. And we were going to barbecue.
I scratch a lot, but I keep the shirt on.
Okay, so people can find Alberto now on his new Instagram, which is the Keto Cholo, and he's been posted a few things there already. You can also find him and his paint stuff at _painter. So that's a good one as well to follow all of his auto painting stuff. So it's interesting to see things like his. That was a Harley tank this week, I believe, that you were painting and showing off how you can do that. So that's that was a cool little thing to be able to see. Okay, as far as contact information for the show, we've got a couple of those items to mention. We'll mention them again in the closing recording as well. But we do have a podcast Instagram that you can reach us at with @Keto Man's Club Podcast. We highly suggest that you follow that because we do tend to push out a quick reminder that the podcast episodes come out or any updates on if they're delayed. So we try to keep that up to date there. You can also email us if you want to any comments, questions. If you're interested in coming on the show and make Brad not feel like the first one who had an ego trip and wanted to share his story, you can email us at ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. So feel free to reach out there as well. Our website, once again, is theketomansclub.com, and you can use that to get directly to our Facebook group. We are so glad that you were here this week and listening. Brad, thank you. Oh, I totally almost skipped it. Okay, Brad, where can people get a hold of you other than the Facebook group?
It's been an absolute pleasure, by the way. And I'm actually surprised that I was the first person to reach out because there's so many great dudes on that group, in that group that have so much to share. and I really thought that there was going to be a bit of a lineup, because I really want to hear a lot of these guys' stories, and I just wanted to be the first Canadian. But so come on, boys, step up. We want to hear your stories, and it's just so cool. Everyone's different. Everyone has their different life, and we're all kind of bonded by that. I'm on the Instagram, realtor Brad Pond, YYC_OKO. You could find me there. I don't really post a lot about keto. I don't, a lot of realtors, they post beds and baths, and it's boring. I try to keep it a little funny with, everything from fitness to, what I ate that day to, just funny stuff, and, just try to kind of keep it entertaining. So, and then I'm on Facebook as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, again, thank you for coming. And that's it for this week. Until next week, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, and get some good sleep. And repeat, we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for the Keto Man's Club podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Man's Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Man's Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.